beginning of this storyline was July 2002. We found the Tree Gnome village was besieged by the armies of General Khazard. They stole their spirit tree's magical orbs that protects their maze. We helped them get the orbs back, and the king, Bolrin, awarded us with the ability to use the spirit tree transport system. Later that year, in September, a little boy was hunting for treasure near a waterfall. We did some research and found that the elven king Baxtorian and Queen Glariel once ruled over this land, and the gnomes hold the key to unlocking the treasure the king hid. Under the Tree Gnome village, we found a gnome called Gulri who gave us a key, a little pebble. We used it to unlock Glariel's resting place and took her ashes and her amulet. We went to the secret dungeon inside the waterfall and laid her remains next to Baxtorian so they could be together in the afterlife. Then, in 2006, the Tree Gnome stronghold became home to some cute creatures. We find a magical machine in a cave that had just been sabotaged, repair it, turn it on, and it reveals that the creatures were actually evil. We killed them as they were thought to be spies of Glouphrie, a disgraced gnomish mage that was banished a long time ago for hiding the death of the last silver spirit tree, Argento, with his illusory magic. We left with the suspicion that conflict may soon break out with Arpasandra, the city that Glouphrie was said to create after being banished. This puts us to today, with quest number 128, the Path of Glouphrie. We return to the Tree Gnome village for the first time in 5 years and find that one of Glouphrie's evil creatures is standing right next to the king. He's named it Dumpling. We tell him it's evil, but he doesn't believe us, and it's being impossible to reason with. We're going to have to remove the illusion. We ask if there would be one of Oknok's machines nearby, like in the stronghold. He says when he was young, Unok, Oknok's son, came to the village and he saw something similar to Oknok's machine, but he never saw it after that. We head out to the village and talk to Gulri since we know he's kept elven artifacts before. We ask him about his collection and he tells us his grandfather is the one who gives them to him. He apparently collects elven artifacts and sends them back to Gulri, which includes the pebble that unlocked Glariel's tomb. We ask if we can look through the stuff he's gathered and he lets us. We look in a chest and find some discs, just like the ones we used to activate Oknok's device. We head to the other end of the cave and go into the tunnel and find a strange object in our way. We push it and find a chest along with even more strange objects. The chest behind these obstacles is gilded, so it must have good loot. We push around and solve the puzzle to find that the chest is locked. We find another chest nearby with a key and a notebook titled Unok's Notes. It details Unok learning Oknok's method of using elven magic, as well as building a copy of the anti-illusion device right here in the village. He learned that singing bowls can only make one item, as the shape of the bowl is what decides what's made. One seed can turn into multiple different things depending on the bowl used. The bowls are used to emulate the voices of elven crafters, who can do this using only their voices. Also, the bowls can be used to revert the seeds by playing loudly. We find a singing bowl nearby and use it to revert our crystal saw back into a seed, then play its song. It makes a chime. We take the key we found and unlock the gilded chest. Inside is a bigger key. We use that key to unlock this gate to the west. Inside is the anti-illusion device Unok made, along with a lectern. On it is Bolri's diary. That must be Gulri's grandfather. We read it and imagine a scene. Bolri is talking to a spirit tree shaman, warning him that Khazard will bring ruin to the gnomes. During this time, the king of the gnomes in the village doesn't pay it any mind, and his son is back at the Grand Tree. The advisor says that if someone led the gnomes instead of the king, and if they beat Khazard back, they would be crowned king. The advisor recommends they strike Khazard as soon as possible. The next entry shows the death of the king, and then Bolri going against Argenthor, the previous king's son, in an election. The spirit tree shaman told him he could destroy Argenthor's popularity, and Bolri told him to do it. A spy went into the throne room and filled it with human food to show that he loved humans more than gnomes. The prince asked Unok to turn on the anti-illusion device, and the shaman's disguise was shed. It was Glouphrie. Glouphrie said he would create a new city, and for all gnomes who want to live with vision, follow him. Bolri withdrew in shame and left to reclaim his honor. Before he left, he asked Unok to install the anti-illusion device in the Tree Gnome village as well. We activate the device by solving the shape puzzle just like Oknok's device. It dispels the illusion. We kill the spy and ask the king if he knows anything about Arpasandra's location. He says an explorer gnome named Long Ramble left to search for it, somewhere between here and the edge of the world. While that's not helpful, Bolver mentions that there is one gnome who has limitless ability in finding other gnomes, the head of the gnome delivery service, Aluft Jian Jr. We talk to him and he says he actually has an outstanding order for Long Ramble, but nobody can get to him. He knows exactly where he is, but apparently it's been too hard to make it there. He gives us his exact coordinates and says he's only doing this because he can't find it on Google Maps. Nice. Oh, they're on dried Dougal leaves. Okay. He says the order is for some tangled toad's legs. We expertly create the gnome bowl with the highest quality freshly removed toad's legs and read the coordinates. 2 degrees 7 minutes south, 3 degrees 7 minutes west. That's what's of Castle Wars. We use the fairy ring code BKP and run west and realize we can see the poison waste on the southern end of Isafdar, but have no way to get to the other side of this area. There's a tree that we might be able to swing across. Here goes nothing. That's what 70 agility will get you, ladies and gentlemen. We deliver the food and he gives us a mint cake. He's trying to talk to us, but we can't hear him? Apparently he forgot how to talk, but he snaps out of it and tells us he's looking for the edge of the world to fulfill his dream of being the first known to look off the edge. We ask what if the world is a sphere? He says that's just silly. Anyway, he says he believes Arpasandra is nearby. He found a waste pipe coming out of the mountain. He believes it is responsible for creating the toxic waste, and giant tortoises are patrolling near the pipe. A clearly gnomish creature. This one's weird though. It has tentacles coming out from under its shell. We head forward and find a spirit tree. It calls to us, saying its brethren cannot hear it. Its name is Incomentitus. We mentioned Hazelmere talked to us like this before. It says Hazelmere can help. It lost its connection to the Anima Mundi. Its roots are corrupted by black ichor. We ask what Anima Mundi is. It says she connects all spirit trees and allows those attuned to her to travel between them. We ask how Hazelmere is supposed to help, and all of a sudden, we can hear him in our heads. Apparently, he gifted us with the ability to talk to him, and we interrupted him in the middle of some sort of important premonition that would save his life, but we cut him out of it right when he was figuring out what that was. Apparently, we accidentally used this tree as a conduit to meld with him through the Anima Mundi. Hazelmere melds our spirit with the trees, and we can feel its horrible affliction. Blind, alone, and in so much pain. Hazelmere finds that the poison swamp couldn't have done this. The Anima Mundi is a sort of nature soul, powerful and dangerous, but through the balance of Guthix, it's kept in check. A powerful magic separated this part of the Anima Mundi from its source, which caused a huge power imbalance. Hazelmere believes that's the true source of this poison swamp and Incomatitus' state. Hazelmere says we need to cleanse its spirit to restore its connection to the Anima Mundi, specifically using Elven magic. Elven magic uses the power of Saren, the divine aspect of the Anima Mundi. He tells us we're carrying exactly what we need. A pure note of elven crystal. It will place a purification on anything nearby. We ring the chime, and it cures Incomatitus. It says that the roots blocking the entrance to Arpasandra were its own, and it will clear them for us. It begs us to find the cause of the sunderance of the Anima Mundi. We enter the huge sewage pipe and find the warped tortoises. We kill one, then head on to the next room. We're immediately attacked by several warped terror birds. We run past them and continue down the sewage system, eventually making it to a room with 3 terror birds that immediately start barraging us with their screams. We kill them all and peek through the doorway. Inside are 2 more terror birds, who are talking in plain English. They hear us and press the red button nearby. Tar from the swamp starts filling the room we're in. We run towards the exit through the tar, but get completely stuck. We try and teleport, but that doesn't work either. And then toxic fumes start flowing in through the holes in the wall. As if it couldn't get any worse, we're then prodded with blasts. We call out for help. And Hazelmere hears us. He uses a seed pod to come to us and puts up a barrier. The seed he's holding breaks open, and he calls out, Megal. This was the last thing given to him by Argento. He uses a seed pod to teleport us back to his hut. We talk to him. He thanks us for saving the spirit tree and, for the first time since we met him, respects us because of our strange connection to the Anima Mundi. He says he's dying. The vision he had was of Guthix deciding that his time was nearing its end. Apparently, he had a choice to make. He says we'll do something of great good and not to give up hope, even when what we seek slips away. Skilled brothers, numbering 8, will assemble to fight the Majoret Deceiver, and they will be heading north to confront him. He says after that, it's cloudy, but he clearly sees us dressed in evil robes, decorated with ochre-like blood and rust colors of autumn leaves. Of the 8 brothers, only 2 will return. 1 is a slayer, 1 is a warrior. The choice he made in saving our lives today sealed their fate, as well as his and our own. We brush it off as a crazy dream and say he'll live forever. Quest complete. 73 strength and 62 slayer. Back in 2002, we helped Kangai Mao in Brimhaven to get his tribal totem back that was stolen by Lord Handelmort, a noble from Ardoyan. 4 years later, in 2006, we helped Bert the Sandman out of a bad situation after he found a wizard's severed hand in a sandpit. We learned it belonged to an apprentice wizard named Clarence, who cast a spell on Bert so that he would believe anything his employer Sandy would say. Clarence was killed by Sandy, chopped up, buried in the sand. We broke the spell and exposed Sandy, but only ever found one of Clarence's hands, and his head. Quest number 129, Back to My Roots. Right outside of Lord Handelmort's mansion, the gardener Horatio is looking to improve the garden to lift Handelmort's spirits. Apparently, one of his treasures was stolen. It's been 5 years. I can't believe he hasn't let it go. Horatio wants a very rare plant, a jade vine found natively in Karamja, east of Shiloh Village. Apparently, he's already tried and failed in getting it. It's incredibly delicate and hard to keep alive. He tells us to ask Cromperty for help. Wizard Cromperty says he's working on an invention that will just so happen to solve our problem. The problem is that his delivery hasn't arrived yet, and the RPDT won't help. We go down there and find a smelly package. An employee says whatever it is was water damage from a storm. It came in from a Karamja shipment last week, and this label's unreadable. They're also not allowed to open it, but we don't work here, so we can. Whoa. There's a hand in here. Wait, this is a wizard's robe. Is this part of clearance? I guess that's not important right now. The RPDT employee says he'll deliver Croppity's package now. Croppity opens the package and he tells us it's broken. Apparently it was just a pot lid. We go and make him one, and he says it's just for our pot. What? Crompity just had us make a regular pot lid for a regular pot, and now we need to talk to Garth on Karamja. We find him at the fruit tree patch. He says that the jade vine cuttings don't survive in open air, and they need to be in a sealed container. We'll also need a plant pot, secateurs, and a spade. And finally, we need to do it at the main trunk, not any of the smaller roots of the vine. We find the huge jade vine. It's grown so wild, it's a giant maze full of its own ecosystem worth of fauna. We make our way through the maze, getting past giant wasps, snakes, ants, cutting through vines with our brand new top quality topaz machete, climb up high and, whoa, eagle nest? Anyway, we go through more obstacles before coming to the main trunk. We dig up the roots nearby and place one into the plant pot. It doesn't take. We try this 3 more times before eventually this one takes. We quickly use another pot and I apply my special touch to it to create a sealed pot. We give the pot to Horatio, but he says he wants us to grow it for him. We try, but it overgrows and becomes aggressive. It attacks the guard dog, blocks our escape route, and entangles Horatio. We chop at it with our dragon hatchet, get a wood cutting level, and eventually prune it to death with our secateurs. Horatio thanks us and gives us one of the seeds we grew so we can grow our own. Quest complete, 54 farming and 63 slayer. Last time we saw the cave goblins, we helped dig up ancient artifacts in their newly dug train tunnel. One of them we found was a holy war mace. We had it identified in the goblin village with Zanik, and a goblin named Grubfoot identified Zanik as the chosen commander, as he saw a premonition of her leading every tribe of goblins to victory over the whole world. Quest number 130, Land of the Goblins. We go down the cave goblin mines and find Grubfoot begging Miss Stag to be let into Dorgish Khan. Apparently surface goblins are forbidden. Grubfoot sees us and asks for our help. He wants to talk to Zanik. We tell Mistag we'll take responsibility for Grubfoot, and Mistag lets him in under the condition he stays with us while in the city. We go in with Grubfoot in tow and find Zanik in Oldak's lab. Grubfoot tells her about a new dream he had. He dreamt of a far-off land that he's never seen, but one he knows. Goblins of all tribes living together in peace, led by Zanik. He thinks it's the land of the goblins, Ubiesk. Legend has it, long before the God Wars, goblins came from Ubiesk and were found by the Big High War God, brought to other worlds to fight for him. Grubfoot thinks that if Zanik leads the goblins back to Ubiesk, the goblins will finally have peace, safe from the people who want to kill them. We ask why Grubfoot would want that, as most goblins are all about war, but Grubfoot's different. He won't tell other goblins about that because he'd be killed. Grubfoot says he'll tell a secret, but not in our presence. Zanik tells him we're a friend and he can trust us. Grubfoot agrees, but asks us to promise to never tell. There's a secret temple to the Big High War God, and he thinks the priests inside know the way to Ubiesk. All 3 of us promise not to tell anyone the location. Grubfoot tells us it's in the Goblin Cave near Ardoyan. Oldak makes us all moving over distant spheres. Grubfoot returns him to the Goblin Village, and Zanik and Aris brings us to the cave. We find the entrance to the temple, and they let Zanik in, but block us, as only goblins are allowed in. We head to the only person in RuneScape who could possibly help us, the Makeover Mage. We ask them to turn us into a goblin. They say they've never done it before, but could give us a recipe that might work. They give us a Pharmacos berry, which is something they use with all their normal transmogrifications, and tells us to mix it with the Toadflax potion. Finally, they warn us that the transmogrification will be temporary and fragile, so we can't fight while we're transformed and can only wear goblin items. We make a 3-dose goblin potion and drink it back at the entrance. Oh hey, we get to pick a style. It's gotta be this one, right? We ask to be allowed in, and the guard guesses our name is Slugnails. We head inside and find an altar to the Big High War God. Oh, hey, we can finally wear goblin mail. After 6 years of waiting. We talk to the High Priest and ask him where Zanik is. He says she didn't pass a test. Apparently, she went off about how war was bad and some guards in black armor put him in the Huzamagarb enclave. We ask him about Ubiesk, but he says only those who understand the ways of the Big High War God can learn about it. We tell him we do, and he tells us to pass the test. He asks if non-believers of all races must die. We tell him yes, because the Big High War God commands it. He asks if the Big High War God chose goblins because they're mighty warriors. We tell him no. Goblins were not mighty before they were chosen. He asks if goblin leaders should be good planners. We tell him no, that's one of the commandments. Thinkers must die. And finally, what is the chosen commander sent to do? To lead goblins to victory over the whole world. He says we pass, and he'll now answer our questions. We ask him about Ubiesk, specifically where it's located. He says he thinks Snothead knows. Unfortunately, he's dead, but he says he'll ask him next time he sees him. Apparently, when Goblin High Priests die, they're buried in a crypt with magic. Magic that lets the current High Priest ask them questions just by speaking their name. We ask if we can do it. He says only the High Priest can enter the crypt. The crypt is locked by 6 keys kept by the 6 tribal priests. We dye our armor black and are allowed into the Huzamagarb enclave. We find Zanik in jail and she says we need to get her moving over distance sphere. Hers was confiscated. We find it in a crate nearby and she uses it to escape, putting her faith in us to find the way to Ubiisk. Before leaving the Enclave, we pickpocket the priest for his key. In classic goblin fashion, we just need to color our goblin mail to match the tribe we want access to, then steal from the priests in their Enclave. We do blue for Elikashin, orange for Narugashin, purple for Herogothgar, yellow for Yurkogok, and then run into a problem with Saragogok, as they wear white armor. But we don't have white dye. We break the transmogrification and get kicked out. We head to the best dye expert we know of, Aggie, the witch in Draenor. She says there's no such thing as white dye, but we can remove the dye that's already on poorly made clothes, like goblin mail. But that requires a chemical found in the gut of a Himminster whitefish that must be caught using a slimy eel as bait. Aggie says she'll take care of it for us for 5 gold and the whitefish. We easily catch it in Himminster and give it to Aggie. She removes the color from the mail. We're able to get into the Saragorgak enclave and steal their key as well. We unlock the door to the crypt and head inside. We call it to Snothead, and a skeleton goblin attacks us. We smack him, and he asks what we want. We ask why he attacked us. He says because we're not the High Priest. We ask him about Ubiisk, but he says he doesn't know. The priest before him says goblins go there when they die, so he might know. We ask him what his name is. He says it's Snailfeet. We call out to Snailfeet, hit him over the head with our great axe, and ask him about Ubiisk. He says he learned about it from his predecessor, who taught him that goblins go there when they die in battle. He says his name was Moschin. Moschin says he was taught by his predecessor that Ubiisk is on the other side of the world, and when goblins die and bleed into the ground, their souls travel there. His predecessor was Red Eyes. Red Eyes tells us Ubiisk was beyond every corner of RuneScape, but close to the goblins who die fighting for the Big High War God and bleed into the ground. His predecessor told him that no living goblin has ever gone back there, but Red Eyes thought that perhaps the dead can. His predecessor is Strongbones, a mighty priest and warrior who created this spell that allows them to come back when spoken to. We defeat Strongbones, and he says Ubiisk is on another plane, not on RuneScape. He says that the barriers between the planes were ever to be broken, goblin blood would call out to open a portal to Ubiisk. We leave and tell Zanik what we learned. Zanik says they found a fungus ring in their caves that has teleportation properties. We tell them about the fairy ring network. Oldak says with enough power, it should be able to break the planar barriers. He hypothesizes that if Zanik stands next to it when there's no destination set, it should open a portal to Ubiisk. Zanik believes it's her destiny to lead goblins to safety to their homeworld. Oldak asks us to meet them by the fairy ring. We find them in the agility cave to the south in a huge machine connected to the fairy ring. He says we'll need to adjust the power to evenly distribute between the 3 rings. He says the diameter of the inner ring is 2 zergs, the middle is 4 zergs, the outer is 6. We just need to distribute the energy evenly based upon their relative areas. 9, 4, 1. The portal opens, and we find ourselves on a desolate wasteland. Zanik feels this is correct, and this is what's left of Ubiisk after the Big High War God arrived. We explore a bit outwards and hear Oldak shout that we need to hurry as the portal will close soon. We find a huge ornate chest and push it open. It pulled Zanik in. We run back to Oldak and go in the portal just as it closes. We need to rescue Zanik. He says we can't use the fairy ring again because it closed due to it becoming resistant to the power he was pumping into it, and they don't have enough power to break past that resistance. Either we'll need to find another way, or Zanik is on her own. Quest complete. The next mini-quest, One Foot in the Grave. After letting it stew in our bank for a few weeks, we take Clarence's hand and give it to Zavistic. He asks us to try to find the rest of him too. Realizing the package came from Karamjo, we think the rest may be there too. We head into the Jadevine maze, which is full of giant creatures. Lo and behold, a giant ant had his foot. His torso was held by a giant spider, left arm by another giant ant, and a spider had his right arm. We eventually get all the other parts as well, besides 1 foot. 73 attack? What is this, a half episode? We give the parts to Zavistic, and he tells us that for some reason we need more evidence against Sandy? Why? We have a full-on confession. Well, anyway, he teleports us to Sandy's shack in Brimhaven and we find his diary. It starts when he's just making his sand business. Things aren't going well and he couldn't quite get ahead of his payments. He turned to crime, as we know, and when Clarence was getting cold feet on the vex he put on Bert, he killed him. We turn in the diary to Zavistic, and then we all remember Clarence at his resting place. A shame that there is only 1 foot in the grave. Mini-quest complete. Another mini-quest, Hope Speaker's Will. We transform back into a goblin and head into the Holy Crypt. We put on our ring of visibility, which turns us back into a human, and we can see the ghost of a goblin. We talk to it using our ghost speak amulet and ask who he is. His name is Hope Spear of the Narogashun. He was a prophet of the Big High War God. He's refusing to pass on, waiting for the Big High War God to take him to Ubiusk, as the prophecy he saw foretold. We tell him we've been there, and it's been ravished by war to the point where nothing there can live. He doesn't care. He still thinks that's where they should be. He asks us to take the bones of the 5 priests and bury them there, freeing them. We tell him we've actually already tried killing them, but they just started talking once we beat them instead. He says that undead goblin priests can be destroyed through the ancient goblin ritual combat. It's done without spells and without any equipment. Before we start, we ask him about the prophecy he saw. Before the prophecy, the goblin tribes would frequently skirmish over food mostly. The warring continued, and their final battle was at the temple grounds before it was built. They fought for days in the rain. Hope Spear was a fighter for the war, and one night he had a dream. He saw the Big High War God and heard his voice. He demanded they stop fighting each other as they're no good to him if they all die. The Big High War God said one day he would send the chosen commander, and he saw him in shining armor, with every goblin from every tribe behind him, and every other race ran from the goblins in fear. This mighty army destroyed all the cities in the world and killed everything, leaving only goblins and the Big High War God atop his throne, with the chosen commander at his side. After the Goblin Wars ended, so many had died that food was no longer scarce, and they were able to reach peace agreements. They built a temple on this war ground. The wet ground absorbed the temple, and it sunk deep into the ground, keeping it a secret from everything but goblins. We summon and destroy all 5 priests with ease and take their remains. We go to a fairy ring and try to figure out a code that will lead us to Ubiusk. On the first try, we use BLQ, and it takes us right to where we were last time. We run over to the chest, but somehow it's sealed shut. In fact, it looks like it could never have been opened in the first place. We call it to Zanik, but hear nothing in response. We bury the priests on their home plane. We feel the gratitude of the spirits, and of Hope Spear. Mini quest complete. Before the next quest, we need a few things. First, we need a golden pyramid top from the agility pyramid. Then we need 10 golden artifacts from pyramid plunder. Also, more camel poop. The last time we were in Sophonim, we worked with Osman and his agent named Mysa. We found her at the end of an expansive tunnel underground filled with humanoid scarabs. Osman tasked her with gaining intelligence from Miniphos. We learned about these Scabarites from the High Priest of Iclaran. Scabaras, along with the other minor deities of the desert, Atmekan, Krondus, and Het, were born of the dreams of the god of the sun, Tumekan. Scabaras is a being of solitude and darkness, so it was very strange for all these Scabarites to be gathered together and pushing forward into Sophonim. Quest number 131, Dealing with Scabaras. We pay a visit to our favorite High Priest of Iclaran, and he says he has grave news. A body from Miniphos came for funeral preparation, and it's someone we may know. The reason he thinks that is there was a note left with the body to talk to us before embalming. He shows us the body, but she doesn't look familiar to us. He thanks us for our time and starts the embalming process, but before he's able to make any cuts, she wakes up. She admits that she took a cadaver berry potion, and we realize it's Mysa. We ask why she pretended to be dead. She says it's the best way she had of getting out of Miniphos into Sophonim. She recovers a little bit and tells us that she'd been working on getting revenge on the Scabarites, and she discovered an extensive tunnel system near where we were last time, but the entrances have been sealed for ages. They go as far as the east coast and all the way underneath Sophonim. She wants me to find the tunnels and kill every Scabarite we see. We tell the High Priest about her plan, and he asks us to try instead to pacify the High Priest of Scabaras if we find him, rather than killing him. He believes we can bring peace if we're able to talk. We leave Sophonim and head past the crocodiles into a large swamp. We're attacked by multiple Scabarites, but get away and climb up to a sandstone plateau. A couple of archaeologists beat us here, and we ask for help with entering the tunnels below. They agree if we give them some artifacts to give to Simon Templeton. For some reason, she asks us a series of simple math problems. We answer them, and ask her what Simon Templeton wants. She says he wants 6 ancient bronze plate skirts, as well as a golden pyramid top and 10 gold pyramid plunder objects. We ask how to get the bronze. She says we just need to make some, and then distress them with camel dung in the hot desert sun. We go past the archaeologists, running through some mummies, and hang a rope off the cliffs, creating a shortcut next to the agility pyramid. We use the rope as a shortcut to get to Simon and give him the golden objects, then go to Varrock to smith the bronze. We stand out in the desert and cover them in camel poop, making them look old. We give them to Simon. He knows that they're fakes, but they're good enough to fool who he's selling them to. He says he has another job for us if we want to come by later. We give the receipt to the archaeologists, and they say that they need some research materials from the locals. She wants us to kill mummies and zombies and skeletons to get some bits of information. We head in, kill a bunch of undead, then read the notes they left behind. It details of someone very concerned with keeping the furnaces lit with wood, but being forced to retreat once they ran out. Also, armies led by vile misbelievers are attacking settlements. This journal talks about the attack on User. The journal says that they will secure the tunnels beneath Ulek. That must be where we are now. We give her the notes, and in return she tells us what she knows, and gives us a key that was made to unlock a door to the north. She warns us that whatever is in there is very likely exceedingly dangerous. We ask why she didn't use the key, and she says it's because she's a coward. Instead of telling us what she knows, she simply gives us her notes. They say that there's a theory that Sophonim was built by the refugees from Ulek. Whatever happened here left heaps of undead. Whether it's caused by sorcery or simply the area is still debated, but they found that this used to be a dense forest. We head into the ruins and down the stairs, finding the tunnels we're looking for. We find some logs nearby and a clay golem. We ask it where we are. It says we're in the storehouse of Ulek. It says there's an infestation of not human humans. We assume that means the Scabarites. We ask how to get past their locking mechanism they installed. It says that if we soak the furnace, it will power up the levers in the next rooms. We need to pull those levers in short succession to get the doors open. We ask what powering them will do. Apparently there's a bunch of traps at each lever, and powering them will reduce the intensity of those traps. There's 4 rooms, an agility pipe, a giant scarab, a strength lever, and a mysterious box. We'll have to light the furnace and then pull all 4 levers without failing to complete any of them. If we fail, we have to relight the furnace and talk to the golem again. We fail the agility pipe, try again, get the lever, then fail the strength room, try again, fail the pipe a few more times, and eventually get both the pipe and the strength check, then fail this matching puzzle quiz because we run out of attempts. We start all over, then fail again, and we're out of logs. We restock, and on the first try, we get the pipe, then the lever, then we get ridiculously lucky on the memory puzzle, and then we take out the beetle. Wow. We head into the main area, and sure enough, it's full of aggressive Scabarites. We run past him and find the High Priest. It says a teaching of Scabaras is to vow to not have conversations, unless it is to convert or slay your conversing partner. We tell him we sense the Devourer is at play here. He says yes, and then attacks us. We fight back, and then all of a sudden, he stops fighting and greets us like we'd never met before. We tell him the Devourer has dragged them to heresy for her own needs. He doesn't like that, but we put him back in his place, resetting him again. We repeat ourselves, and he snaps out of it. He says he'll spread word and make the Scabarites stop attacking Sophonim, and to tell the priests of Iclarin that it's a vow on their god. Before we go, he agrees to write some teachings of Scabaras into our journal. The teachings are different from what the High Priest of Iclarin told us. Tumekin dreamed the 4 demigods, but the first 3 were imperfect. It wasn't until Scabaras was born that Tumekin was happy with his creations. Scabaras believes that corruption flows from communication and interaction with others, so solitude and meditation is the best way for self-improvement. The Devourer is a testament to this, as she corrupted the High Priest with her words, leaving many Scabarites permanently insane. The High Priest told us that the best we can do for them is to grant them mercy through death, and the last thing he taught us was that their forms are a generational blessing given to them by their god. We return to Sophonim and tell the High Priest the news. He rewards us by teaching us how to make an enchanted water tiara that will protect us from the desert heat. Quest complete. Quest number 133, As a First Resort. On the very southern tip of RuneScape, we find a huge encampment surrounded by sandstone. We journey inside and find it's filled with ogres. We talk with the chief, who says they're not open yet? Not open until the other human says they're ready. We ask what's going on. She says that a human woman came to Uglog and started demanding things for a business venture. She says they've been struggling to get whatever that is started. We offer to help, and the chief asks us to talk to the bossy lady. First, we ask where we are. She says we're in Uglog, the biggest ogre camp on this side of Feldup Hills. She's Chief Tess, chief of the Uglog, and her headdress is a hunting trophy. She's the best hunter in the tribe. We mention the Larupia in her hut. She says that's Daug. We find the bank and the woman inside. She introduces herself as Balnea Thermani Caldarium. We ask what the issues are. She says upper management is overstretched. Upper management, of course, being her. The ogres just aren't cutting it. She needs someone to promote organic growth and envision the way forward. She hits us with a bunch more nonsense corporate buzzwords, and we agree to help. She mentions her dad owns the tavern in Yenil, but she's left because he wouldn't expand. She was out on holiday and came across Uglog and noticed the natural pools and springs, which, when bathed in, give a variety of performance and health boosts. She wants to open a spa. The reason she's having trouble is she's bad at training the ogres. She needs us as middle management. We take orders from her, and we order the ogres. We ask what we get out of the deal. She says once we get the spa open, we get unlimited access for life. Count us in. The first thing we need to do is set up catering. She says the only thing she believes the ogres are capable of is roasting meat on a spit and fire. She wants us to train the ogress named Charger. We find her right outside, scratching her head by an extinguished fire pit. She says she can't figure out how to light it. She needs a ton of logs and spears to use as spits, plus some raw chompies. We go out and grab her some achy logs and eucalyptus, which just came out. We're really getting deep into that exclusive RuneScape 3 content now. We fill the fire pit, and she asks us for 4 spears. We tie them together and then put them over these achy trees. Finally, she says she needs 2 raw chompies. We go hunt them real quick and then spit them over the fire. Settled but thinks these things are giant. Now she wants us to light it. Easy. She says that's all she needs, and tells us she'll give us a good deal on meat once the spa is open. Next on the list, we need to talk with the manager of the hotel. She goes on, and we have to verbally beat the name out of her. Snurg. We find the hotel. Nice beds. She got the softest thing she could think of for pillows. Raw meat. We say feathers would work better. She asks us to get 8 stripy feathers from the birds that fly around here. We hunt some tropical wagtails and bring Snurg the feathers. That's apparently all she needed. Next, Balnea wants the salon fixed up. Krink, the hairdresser, says she needs salon tools. She's pretty sure she can make some using wolf bones and larupia fur. We go hunt some down and return with the materials. Next on the list is to help Sigurd, the head of insect management. She says that each pool is filled with a different liquid and therefore attracts different bugs. We need to repel them with smoke from eucalyptus logs and various grasses found nearby. She marked each pool with rocks to represent what we need to burn. Long brown is eucalyptus, green lump is fevergrass, red round is primweed, yellow egg is tanzimum, orange square is stinkbloom, and tall purple is lavender. We chop some eucalyptus and pick a bunch of flowers, then follow her directions, but the bugs here don't disperse. A nearby ogre child snickers at us. We tell Sigurd, and she believes that the children mixed up the rocks. She doesn't remember what they should be, but she does think that they only swapped the meaning of the stones, not scrambled them entirely. We talk to one of the children, and he tells us to try starting with the thermal bath, as it only takes 2 ingredients, one of them being a eucalyptus log. Not stinkbloom, not primweed, not fevergrass. There we go. That means yellow egg is lavender. This pool here takes eucalyptus, lavender, and 1 other flower. Not stinkbloom, fevergrass, or tanzimum, so that means it has to be primweed. This one needs green gumdrop rock, which is not fevergrass or stinkbloom, so it has to be tanzimum. Yep, this next one is 50-50 for stinkbloom or fevergrass. Nice, first try. Now we know what every rock is. The last pool is easy. We tell Sigurd we've taken care of it. Balnea says we need to take care of one final thing. Remove the wandering animals around the spa. Diseased kebits, wimpy birds, and platypodes. We talk to Chief Tess. She tells us the creatures here evolved to avoid hunter traps. To catch them, we'll need to entice them with a smoke that they like, leading them with the smell. Diseased kebits like fevergrass. Platypodes need to be caught in box traps. We can't hurt them or the ogres will be mad. They like burning lavender. We ask why they're protected, but she won't tell us. Wimpy birds like tanzimum. We start with the kebits, burning the fevergrass and baiting the traps. Then the birds with the tanzimum, then the platypodes with the lavender. We catch Peanut, and Patrick, and Peter, and Penelope. We release them by the shoreline. They reward us with caskets. Cute. Oh wow, a court summons, nice! That'll come in handy when this comes out in 2010. We tell Balnea, and she starts the grand opening. She invited fairies to cut the ribbon, and all kinds of RuneScape's finest. Quest complete. Quest number 134, Catapult Construction. We traverse the forest of Isabdar for the first time in a long time, and find the guard who's stationed at the catapult we used to commit regicide. We talk to him, he's worried about losing his job. Apparently the catapult wood is rotting, and it's his own fault. The general hired an engineer to look, but the guard here doesn't think the engineer knows what he's doing. He says if we can repair it though, it'll save his job. We talk to the general, he says we can help by finding the engineer and getting the schematics from him. Before we go, he says the engineer received a letter and gives it to us. We find the engineer in the middle of nowhere and give him the letter. He says he's looking for quality wood. Apparently it's rare out here. We convince him to give us the schematics. They show that we need 10 planks and 90 nails. We make all the parts following the schematics. The engineer reads the letter while we're working and shows it to us. His boss is griping at him. The letter shows that we'll need metal parts as well, delivered by a dwarf named Rolad. Oh hey, we know him from way back when we helped Dondigan get into his rock. We go talk to him and ask him about the delivery. He says they've been shipped already. Thaki was sent with them to Port Sarim. We tell him they haven't arrived. He says that maybe something's delaying him. We find Thaki in the Port Sarim pub, wasted. We ask for the parts, but he won't give them to us because we're not a sailor. We find a drunken sailor outside, steal his hat, and then convince Thaki to give us the shipment. We return to the catapult and use each individual piece to repair it. The guard looks. The guard looks what? The guard looks like he wants us to recalibrate the catapult. We aim and launch 3 boulders, destroying 3 other boulders. Quest complete. You know, after all that work, a nice saltwater bath is just what we need. Oh yeah, that's a good 23 minutes of infinite run energy. Now for a nice walk. Wait, who's that? That's Sirak Magus. He escaped from the library. We place him under arrest, but he distracts us and makes his escape. That puts us on the next mini quest, the hunt for Sirak. We see him run through a portal. We follow him and find ourselves in a warped area with aggressive ants. We run past them and then teleport randomly through rooms. We see Sirak one-shot some fire giants and keep chasing him. Finding him again, but he sicks his dogs on us. We keep chasing and finally corner him in a room with no portals. He summons a giant orc. As we're fighting, Sirak blasts us with magic, and as if it wasn't bad enough, Bork summons tiny legions of orcs that throw things at us. We eventually take down Bork, and Sirak slips away, and the cave starts to violently shake. We loot Bork and teleport out. Mini quest complete. We're about to dive back into the Sea Slug questline, so a quick refresher. We first found Witch Haven full of normal people, and we were tasked with going to investigate the weird goings-ons at a fishing platform nearby. The platform was filled with gross sea slugs. We found that those slugs were actually taking control of the fishermen there, and we helped save Kenneth and Kent, a son and father who were trapped. We then worked as a temple knight to investigate the slug menace, and found the slugs had overtaken the village. We discovered an ancient door built by the White Knights ages ago, and unwittingly helped break the barrier, freeing the Slug Queen and Prince. We killed the Prince and narrowly escaped from the Queen at the last second, but what evil did we unleash? It's been a year and a half since then. Now it's time for quest number 135, Kenneth's Concerns. Returning to Witch Haven, we find Kenneth all alone in a house. He says the villagers are acting weird again. More weird than they have been being possessed by slugs. Apparently they're digging, and he asks us to find out what they're up to. We head down into the temple and find two women standing near the entrance to Mother Malam's lair. They say they're working on a surprise. We ask to see it, and she remembers us as the one who killed their prince. We go to leave, and rocks fall down right in front of us. That was close. We head back to Kenneth and let him know what happened. He tells us to try again, and his tone takes a sharp shift, like he wants us to go back there. When we tell him we don't think it'll help, he shifts again and demands for his parents to play with him. We ask what about the slugs. He brushes us off and asks us where his parents are. Of course we have no idea. We step out and find them arguing behind the church. They're also acting strange, but not slug strange. They're praising their son, and then all of a sudden Kent walks away and slips a paper in our hand. He tells us to come to the Legends Guild. We find Kent there and ask him what's going on. He clarifies that it's difficult to talk in Witch Haven, not because of the slugs, but because of Kenneth. He says Kenneth is a very demanding child. That's actually why he brought him out to the fishing platform in the first place, because he didn't want to leave him alone with his mother. Currently, he's worried about Kimberly, Kenneth's friend. She lost his favorite toy, a train, and he's obsessed with getting revenge on her. Kent is too afraid of Kenneth to check on her, so he asks us to do it for him. What is going on with that boy? We head into her house and she's terrified. She tells us the villagers have been banging on the windows, chanting her name. Her parents have been gone for hours. She asks us to help find them. All of a sudden, her house is besieged by slug people. We lure them away from her house and lock them in the church. She heads to Kenneth's house and asks him where her parents are. He says that they're missing, and so are his. The harassers bust out of the church, so we lock them up again and then talk with Ezekiel. He says that the tunnels have led the villagers under Kimberly's house. We leave Kimberly at Ezekiel's shop and head back into the tunnel. Ezekiel is waiting there and helps us talk with the slugs. They grant us access and we find a fork. Ezekiel checks it out and finds the metal door is locked, and the wooden door leads to a room filled with minecarts and villagers. We head in and sneak around behind the workers, getting thrown out a few times, then eventually breaking through a weak point in the wall. We end up in a mine shaft and find the locked door. We open it up and let Ezekiel through. We push on and find Kent and Caroline. They seem to be completely vexed over Kenneth, and won't really talk with us besides to be excited for him. In the next room, Ezekiel recommends we use the rubium on the wall to create a reaction by throwing it in water to heat up the room and make the slugs pass out. We sneak around, mining, then put the rubium into the vents. They all pass out. We proceed with Ezekiel. The next room is more of the same. We make it through and find Catherine and Clive, Kimberly's parents. They're begging for something to stop. The voices saying, "You must leave," over and over. They say they can't control their bodies. Ezekiel says we should leave and check on the children. We run back out through the rooms. Moving on. Apparently, Kenneth is so angry at Kimberly that he's taking control of the villagers telepathically. I have no idea what's going on. Just see for yourself. Ezekiel eventually comes from behind us and tells us we need to find the train. We find it right outside his shop. We throw the train at him. And he's happy as a peach. What the heck is this quest, dude? Kent shows up and tells us that Kenneth is just too powerful to control. He says he's going to send him off to the fishing platform. The Queen is coming for you, RS3 released. What was that? They head out, and Ezekiel says that whatever is going on with Kenneth and his power is directly related to the slugs, and Witch Haven itself. He says he's going to stockpile rubium to try and carry out a plan to bring an end to the terrible things going on here. Quest complete. Level 74 mining. Well, that was a weird end to the episode. Ezekiel, can you... That's better. We're in 2008, and we've unlocked a new skill. Catch the next episode, and we'll finally be able to use all those charms we've been stockpiling. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.